UFC Vegas 78. This is the weigh-in recap show, full card predictions, and the betting breakdown. We're going to talk about each of the matchups on the card after seeing the fighters on the scales. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. And also note, the Fight Companion live 4 p.m. Eastern time for this UFC Vegas 78 fight card. Do not miss it. And let's start it off. First fight of the night. Ladies going after it. We got Juliana Miller versus Luana Santos. Throughout the week, I've been picking the Juliana Miller side, but ultimately, I recognize it's a bit of a coin flip fight. We got kind of a raw prospect on the side of Santos versus Miller, who did win the Ultimate Fighter, but pretty underwhelming performance last time out against Veronica Hardy. I want to pull up the scales and look at these two because Miller, didn't look great on the scale as opposed to Santos, who looks very good on weight and didn't seem to have too difficult of a cut. And then you look Miller, the picture doesn't make her look awful, but she was looking a bit worn and sunken in here. And then we got the face-off. Now, just because she looked a little rocky at the weigh-ins, it wasn't a weight miss. She still was on point. I'm going to ride still with Juliana Miller to win the fight. Betting-wise, she is an underdog, but I'm not saying she's the greatest bet of all time. You got a ladies fight that's an essential coin flip. I think that Miller could potentially get Luana Santos's back and lock up a sub. I think that if she gets the back of Santos, I think she's going to be able to control from there. I like her to pull this one off in a hard-fought fight. Maybe 3-round decision. I was thinking submission earlier on in the week, but I'm kind of feeling like a 29-28. I think we're looking at a close fight. Definitely more menacing look to the side of Santos, but I'm not going to write off Juliana Miller with the Ultimate Fighter win, with experience through the show, and obviously, fighting Veronica Hardy and losing, but still garnering experience in that fight. She's still relatively young. So I'm going Juliana Miller to pull it off. Ultimately, the betting side, as I mentioned, is Miller as a dog. I don't think she's the greatest dog bet ever, but she is a dog pick here. Plus 130 to Santos at minus 150. Santos 5-1, good athlete. Might be hard to finish her. If Miller was able to catch a sub, it's plus 425. I don't really love the betting side here. I mean, if you're going maybe a light Juliana Miller underdog attack, at the end of the day, if you're on the Santos side on the opposite, you're dealing with a girl who's 23, making her octagon debut against an Ultimate Fighter winner. I still think Juliana Miller can pull this thing off and kind of, break that bad trend that we see from a lot of Ultimate Fighter winners where they end up being UFC washouts, at least some of the, recent seasons. Specific guy I'm thinking of is Brad Katona, who's actually now back on the Ultimate Fighter this season. We shall find out. Juliana Miller the pick, but be cautious betting her. Second fight of the night, Blachshear and Jose Johnson. Short notice replacement bout. Johnson steps up to fight Blachshear. I talked about this fight on the Late Night Live for the first time last night, and I picked Blachshear. I like the full camp. I like the potential for strength in the top position and overall being able to land takedowns. But it's concerning when you're fighting a guy who just beat Jack Cartwright pretty impressively, a well-rounded MMA fighter who has good length. Jose Johnson also has a shit ton of amateur MMA experience. He's been in a lot of fights. Taking a bout on short notice against Blachshear. He didn't have difficulties on the scales. We'll pull him up. Wonder how much he cut exactly, because he didn't look that sucked out to make 135 here. Then you look down, Blachshear shredded out, looking in fantastic shape. I got to ride with Blachshear on the full camp. Now, if you give me this fight when they're both on a full camp, I think it's a real coin flip. I think the lines would be a lot closer. But with Blachshear having the preparation, he's training to fight Brady Heaston and now fighting Johnson, I think Blachshear can win this thing. I'm picking Blachshear, but I am leaning it a decision. Could Johnson in the later rounds fatigue? Sure. Lighter weight classes, so I don't think it's going to get him stopped, but maybe the output would drop a bit and takedown defense. The resistance would be lessened. So I'll go Blachshear on a decision, but, the betting side of this fight is not one that interest me very much because Blachshear is minus 245 as the favorite to Johnson as a plus 210 dog. Blachshear opened up at minus 200. Let's see. Blachshear by a decision, plus 210. Blachshear by TKO. That's interesting to me. Plus 800. Ground and pound TKO is not impossible. And a Blachshear sub at plus 200. I think Damon Blachshear wins. I think we'll notice a clear wrestling edge. And I think he'll end up pulling it off, man. I mean, seeing that he got a ground and pound stoppage against Lacerda, plus 800 for a Blachshear win by knockout doesn't seem correct to me. So maybe that's like a sneaky prop to look at. Blachshear, I'll pick decision, but a later TKO is not out of the question with a weirdly large line, like a long shot type of parlay, but it's not impossible. Blachshear is my pick in the fight. I'm taking him over Jose Johnson. I really like Jose Johnson's win over Jack Cartwright. He's got experience. Mano Martinez did knock him out pretty quick in their fight some years ago. Johnson's been a guy that's name has been around for a bit before he fought on Contender that most recent time, and then obviously now getting into the UFC. I think he's a solid fighter. I just feel like Damon Blachshear is going to be in better shape and more poised for this spot here with the UFC experience at this point. So Blachshear for the win in the second fight on the card. Let's keep running to our third matchup. It's Montserrat Ruiz versus Jaqueline Amorim. I've been picking Jaqueline Amorim to win this fight by submission, but note that Montserrat Ruiz is a beast of a wrestler, and I've essentially sold this fight as it really is wrestling versus jiu-jitsu, not just a bit of that. It is a wrestling versus jiu-jitsu style matchup. Ruiz is a very strong girl, nice head and arms, and is able to dominate from top position against lesser girls. Amorim is an incredibly slick submission specialist who nearly strangled Sam Hughes in the first round of their fight in her UFC debut. Ultimately, that did not come to fruition, but when I watched the tape of Amorim on the regional scene, I was super impressed. Yeah, I was disappointed she lost her debut, but there were still positive things to take away. 28 years of age, solid jiu-jitsu now. Give her the reach advantage by 6.5 inches. I think she could touch up Conejo in the striking, forcing Montserrat to shoot. And I think Jaqueline Amorim on the ground is very live for a win by submission. So my official pick is going to be sub for her in this matchup. Now let's look at the scales. There is Montserrat Conejo. She's got that thick build to her, man. You see how she's strong inside. And there is Amorim. I'm going with jiu-jitsu over wrestling. I like the slickness of Amorim, but I would be remiss to not say that Conejo has always looked badass as fuck to me with that neck tattoo, and she's definitely a dog. But I'm picking Amorim on the, on the sub, on the line. I'm taking her. Now, betting line-wise, minus 250, it's horrible. Minus 250 is not good, man. Opened at minus 270. Montserrat plus 210. There's really nothing to be made unless it's Amorim. You're attacking her money line or you're throwing a parlay more for the fact that if you're trying to play sub, you got minus 175. What happens when she goes out there and pulls it off in a hard-fought decision? You know what I'm saying? So not really worth the sub play. I think that Amorim does find the sub. Minus 250 range. Women's fight, a dangerous betting spot. I do think Amorim's going to win the fight. I just have to caution you, it's a minus 250 tag. It's not a guarantee that she beats a Montserrat Ruiz, but she probably does. I'm picking her. I think she wins by sub. That's what I'm seeing up here. So Amorim by submission. The betting side, do what you wish, but keep it on the more cautious side if you're throwing down. Maybe you have her in one of your parlays, but don't put her in all of them. You get what I'm saying? Next fight on your card, it is Josh Parisian versus Martin Buday. I'm picking Martin Buday to win the fight. He's a real large heavyweight, man. Both these guys, 266. Just big giants. They're probably going to be 285, 290 when they get inside the cage tomorrow. I think that Buday has the better technical kickboxing than Parisian, and Parisian doesn't give me A significant wrestling threat on the other side that I'm like, okay, maybe Buday will end up on his back. I see his wrestling holding up perfectly against Parisian, and he's touching him up on the feet. Parisian does scrap well, and he has a strong chin, and Buday hasn't shown crazy power. He's not a super explosive striker. Both guys are more plodding style heavyweights that are very large. I mean, it makes sense. 6'4" on both sides, 266 on both sides. These dudes are humongous. I'm thinking Buday beats Parisian on the judges' scorecards. If he puts it together and gets a knockout, that would be epic. But I'm just not seeing it, man. He hasn't even shown like that knockout urgency. He seems more like he's complacent, outpointing, and winning decisions. So let's pull him up. Where are these big boys at? There we go. There's Buday weighing in. Looks solid. There's Parisian. I guess looking solid. No, he does look solid. Like, yeah, he's chubby, but you can see some visible muscle. I think that Parisian looks like he's got more body fat on him. And then we got the face off there. Similar builds, soft builds on both sides. Nobody here is winning a physique competition. But I think that Buday for the victory is highly likely. Buday money line is minus 200 to Parisian at plus 170. Buday by a decision. Plus 150. Buday by TKO plus 140. Plus 240 rather for the TKO. I think he's probably winning on the scorecards. I think over 1.5 is going to end up hitting at minus 245. Yeah, give me Buday for the win, and I'll take him by a judge's decision. Should be unanimous. I think he probably wins all 3 rounds. So Buday for the victory. Next fight on the card, we got Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian. I've been picking Isaac Dulgarian, the Midwest Choppa, all week long. I think he can beat Francis Marshall in this fight here. I feel like Dulgarian's going to be explosive and very strong, and I think he's going to put it on Marshall. Marshall's, relatively young at 24. I know Dulgarian's only 27, and Marshall does have the UFC experience edge over Dulgarian here. But I don't know. Dulgarian's taking everybody out with relative ease. He seems to be a real good prospect. Marshall's well-rounded, and he's definitely got a big right hand. He's a solid athlete. He's a guy that can wrestle. And I'd say he has, a solid base of kickboxing in his stand-up. But I'm just not overly impressed by Francis Marshall by any means here. And I think that Dulgarian's game really jumps out on the page more impressively to me. So I'm going Dulgarian, and I'm even thinking that he ends up pulling off a submission over Francis Marshall. Let's see here. Let's see. We got to go the other direction. Here we go. Bout order shift. Here's Dulgarian on the scale. Looks shredded, ready to go. Pretty badass look to him. And we got Marshall coming in good shape. There's the face-off. You can see Marshall a little bit taller. I think Dulgarian will deal with that fine. I think his explosiveness will aid into him being able to close the distance well. So give me Dulgarian. I'll say he gets strikes off, but eventually finds the sub. Probably in the earlier stages. Note that Dulgarian has never been outside of the first round. Is it a red flag for some? Maybe. But also shows that he dominates the opposition that he's fighting against that don't seem to be his level. Just because he hasn't gone outside of that first round doesn't mean he can't. So Dulgarian is a plus 155 underdog. I think he's going to win the fight. Minus 200 for Marshall. I just saw the line swell. Plus 170 Dulgarian underdog. He's a good underdog. Dulgarian wins by submission. Plus 450. I think that's a mismark. He's got a good sub game. He's heavy as hell on top. Dulgarian KO. Plus 450. Dulgarian inside distance. Plus 200. I mean, you could sprinkle prop, the sub if you're riding my side or if you like knockout. But the money line is the best attack here. So Dulgarian plus 170 as the underdog in this fight here against Francis Marshall. I think Dulgarian's going to pull it off, man. I'm not overly impressed by Marshall. That Gomes fight didn't have me jumping up and down at all. I think Dulgarian's a dangerous guy coming in, and I'll pick him to take him out. Dulgarian for the victory. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card. Oh, this one's good. This one's real good, man. Terrance McKinney versus Mike Breeden. This fight gets me excited. Holy shit, this one's going to be good. I'm scrolling down to see if we can easily get to the weigh-in photos. Beautiful, beautiful. I'll bring them up in a second. I'm picking Terrance McKinney to win this fight over Mike Breeden here, okay? I think that he's going to knock him out in the first round. I know people are concerned about Terrance McKinney cutting weight, in 3 weeks' time, right? For a month's time. He's cutting weight back to back. I understand. But it's Mike Breeden. There's a level difference in the games here. Come on now. Terrance McKinney should be able to destroy Mike Breeden in a round. This fight shouldn't be close anywhere. In the striking, I think McKinney could knock him out, but I also think he's live for a sub. Terrance McKinney, high confidence pick. It should be a one-round fight. We'll pull up the scales here and look at these guys. I'll give respect where it's due. Breeden's got a nice six-pack. He's coming in shape, but he's levels below McKinney. He's a well-rounded, tough guy, but he's been knocked out a couple times early. McKinney's got crazy power, and he's good with his back control. I think he could win. And McKinney looks solid on the scale. I think people talking about McKinney's weight cuts, having to do 2 back-to-back, I'll say this. Terrance McKinney is not an overly large guy at 155. I think if he chose to really push it, he could be a 145er. So I don't think that the back-to-back weight cuts are playing near the impact on him that they might have for a larger guy at the weight. Then you see McKinney a bit tall. Bro, just look at the face-off. You're telling me Breeden's going to beat Terrance McKinney? Terrance McKinney's going to crush him. Terrance McKinney, to me, is a lock of the night type of pick here. If he was a closer money line, probably would have called him the lock. But realistically, that's a high confidence pick. He should destroy Breeden. I don't see it as a competitive fight. As far as the betting odds, minus 255, it's playable. I think McKinney is playable, especially in a parlay. Plus 215 for Breeden. I'm feeling real good about McKinney beating him. McKinney to win inside of the distance is at minus 240. Yeah, it ain't even worth touching. It's barely different. McKinney wins by a knockout is plus 150 with sub at plus 155. Note that Breeden's never been submitted, but he's knocked out twice in a minute and a half or less. He's been knocked out twice like that. Once in the UFC against Alexander Hernandez, and then outside of the UFC too. McKinney first round minus 150. I think it's McKinney in the first round, but just money line for your safe side in case he does somehow make it to the second. This, to me, Breeden is not a guy that's going to be able to get McKinney out of there. I don't think he has the tools. This is a skill set level difference, and it's going to be also an athleticism level difference. And then note this, 28 as opposed to 34 years of age. Come on now, guys. This should be a handed victory for T-Rex on short notice. Even without all the full camp, he was ready for Sadikov. McKinney all day. Next fight on the card, featured prelim, Marcus McGhee versus JP Buys. I've been picking Marcus McGhee all week, and I've actually heard some people complain about I'm not confident enough on Marcus McGhee because if you watch my This Week's Best MMA Bet show, I didn't put him in the most confident pick section. Doesn't mean he's not a confident pick, but I will bring up an obvious X factor to the game is JP Buys does have some wrestling. And if he gets to the back of Marcus McGhee, that's where McGhee can falter. Note that McGhee is 33 to JP Buys at 27. There's a 6-year age difference. Now, I'm not going to go just stat-based. Yeah, 6+ years age difference. It favors Buys. So the line should be closer than this. So if you're throwing everything on Marcus McGhee, not acknowledging that JP Buys is still a young guy that trains at Extreme Couture that's developing, and he's also not chinny by any means. I think he's chinny at 125. I'm picking Marcus McGhee. I have been all week, but I'm throwing out some red flags because JP Buys is much better in reality than when you look at his record. Yes, 9-5 is not a good record. Flyweight knockout loss to two good fighters at flyweight. Decision loss, upper weight class, being this weight class here, 135. Montel Jackson, where he had a couple moments in that fight. If you dig into his wins, he does well at 135. So note that. JP Buys is much better at 135 than he is at 125. Still, I do think Marcus McGhee's striking could be on display, but I'm not betting Marcus McGhee down. I'd rather bet JP Buys. McGhee should win, and I think he's got a real chance to knock him out. He's got the power and the striking skill to do such a thing. Let's pull up the scales. Let's look at it as I'm ranting heavy about this fight. All right, we got to go the other direction. All right. There we go. Okay, here we are. There's Marcus McGhee. To be honest, he looks quite scary. Kind of looks like a circus clown without makeup on to me right there. He's shredded, though. He looks in great shape. There's JP Bays. Kind of looks like he's growing up a bit. He's aged a few years since his last fight. There's the face-off. Listen, JP Bays has dealt with a lot of shit in his life. And, you know, specifically the relationship situation some years ago where his girl left him for, you know, a different guy, different fighter. I'll tell you this much. He's live if he gets this fight to the floor. So I would caution away from thinking Marcus McGhee's an absolute lock. Yes, I'm picking him to win. I'm picking Marcus McGhee. But at the tag that we're looking at, in my opinion, it's disrespectful to the skill set that JP Bays does still offer, right? Because Marcus McGhee is minus 365, opening at minus 350, swelling to the minus 400 plus range. That's not real to me. I don't think he's a minus 360. A minus 360 is not this matchup. That's how I'm feeling. JP Bays, nearly a 3-1 underdog when he's done well at this weight class. It's almost like you want to just degenerate bet the dog side, as you know, regardless of the pick. Because I don't want to throw down at Marcus McGhee at minus 350 or more. I wouldn't want to throw down him at minus 250 or more, to be honest. This, to me, seems more like a minus 185, minus 200 situation. At 2-1, I wouldn't be complaining here. Bays to win by sub is plus 500. Interesting. That line's been touched. People have touched this line here. That plus 500 line. That's the one loss that McGhee has, is a sub loss. I think if you are betting the dog on Bays, I think you just go money line dog. And if you want to throw him in a little D-Gen parlay, maybe you mix a high confidence pick with him to get yourself some good odds. I don't think it's crazy. I'll pick Marcus McGhee thinking knockout. But, dude, something's whispering in my ear. Don't bet Marcus McGhee, but do the contrary. Go for JP. And it rhymes, too. So let's keep running up. Let's jump to the main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Josh Fremd versus Jamie Pickett to start this main card off. I think that Josh Fremd is going to smother Jamie Pickett. Josh is going to have him backed up, and he's going to do a good job of using the physical advantage that he has, being the taller guy. He's going to wear on him in the clinch. It's going to be hard for Jamie Pickett to deal with that leverage edge and pressure. He'll be able to have moments earlier in the fight. From the long-range kickboxing, Jamie Pickett can do fairly well against Josh, but Josh is going to look to close the gap on him, and I think he'll do well in the close range and eventually get this fight to the floor. Now, I'll say this. Jamie Pickett, 34 years of age, nearly 35. He's got a lot of experience in the UFC, bad record at 13-9, and we've kind of seen his ceiling, whereas Josh, 29, still, I think, making some improvements to his game, and we don't know how far at this point he can take it. With Jamie Pickett, my concern is this. He gives up a lot of real estate to fighters. He's willing to be backed up. And in my opinion, willing to be backed up like that against a guy who obviously is going to want to put the foot on the gas and pressure you and smother you, not a good style matchup for him. I'm feeling Fremd to win this fight, and I'm thinking sub. Money line is disgusting, though. This is another horrible money line. Let's look at the scales, and then I'll bring up the odds. I'm also going to take a sip of this water here. A little hydration before we check the fighters out on the scales. Jamie Pickett looks solid. Looks like himself. Josh Fremd, I mean, he looks in a bad mood. He never has had a menacing physique. You can see he's the larger guy here. I don't know. Minus 350 for Josh Fremd is crazy to me. Especially seeing him nose to nose. It's not like a huge size edge. I think that Fremd can win it using the grappling. Minus 350 for him to pick it at plus 285. But damn, bro. Minus 350 is so wide. I don't like the betting side here. Over 1.5, minus 185. I'd lean yes. Fremd by sub plus 220. I think it's possible for sure. I'm going to pick Josh Fremd to win by sub. Maybe you're touching the prop with a little bit, but the money line is bad at minus 350. He shouldn't be a 3-1 favorite over Jamie Pickett, looking at the matchup here. So Fremd for the win over Pickett. Just don't love the money line. Next fight on the card, it's Tafon Nchukwi versus AJ Dobson. Earlier in the week, I had Tafon Nchukwi as the lock, and then he shit the bed on the scales. He missed weight. Holy shit. Now I'm like fumbling in this matchup. I'm really concerned with this fight here because of the weight miss. The stylistic matchup I like for Nchukwi, but I don't like when fighters miss weight. Let's pull him up in the scales and let's look at everything. All right, let's pull up Tafon the Don. Here he is. He looked ripped. Great. But he looks sad, man. He looks mopey as hell. He actually looks like the grandfather from Up. You remember that? The old man from Up? I guess I call him the grandfather, but he's not. Kind of looks like that. So that's what he looks like here in this picture. And then you got AJ Dobson, not nearly as ripped as his opponent. And then we got a face-off. I mean, the way Nchukwi looks, I think he can win. I'm still picking Nchukwi to win a decision. I'm not flipping off the pick. I called him the lock throughout the week, and now I'm in a spot where I'm like, holy hell, I don't like it as much with him missing weight. Wonder what's going on up here. But I have to stick to my guns. If it was post-weigh-in, I probably wouldn't have called him the lock. There's Nchukwi, though, facing off with Dobson, and my pick is going to stay the same. I'm going to pick Nchukwi to win it on the judges' scorecards. Minus 140 for him, with Dobson at plus 120. Probably goes over at minus 101. Nchukwi by a decision, plus 200. I like the money line only, but I like it a lot less after the weigh-ins. So if you're planning on throwing down towards Nchukwi's side with him missing weight, maybe you're cutting that bet in half. And if you already have it there, then you're probably crossing your fingers and toes, hoping that he shows up all good. Because if I would have known he was going to miss weight and I would have seen him, on the scale off weight with, a not too great look on his face, I don't know, he just doesn't look into it, I would not have called him the lock. I probably would say McKinney becomes the lock then. Like, I can't really flip from what I said earlier all week, right? But post weigh-in versus now, it looks like McKinney's locked up. But it's just the line is, nearly double his size. Another reason that I liked Nchukwi in the first place is I thought the line was good for him towards the likelihood of success. Damn, dude. Damn, the weight miss is not a good look. It is what it is. Still on the Nchukwi side as far as the pick, but maybe drop the bet down a bit. Don't throw as much heat at him if you were. Or have some parlays set up without him. We'll talk parlays at the end. Next fight, ladies matchup. It's Polyana Viana versus Iasmin Lucindo. I have been picking Lucindo to win the fight all week. I think that she can pull off a decision here against Polyana Viana. I just think she's not going to end up getting subbed on the ground. She'll have a good pace and pressure, and I think she's better technically in the stand-up. So I'll go Lucindo on the judges' scorecards. We'll pull up the scales and check these ladies out, though. All right, there's Lucindo with the signature shades. There's Viana looking like a model. And then there's the face-off. I still think Lucindo pulls off a decision, but I got to tell you, Viana does look menacing as fuck. I know Lucindo's young, but I think she gets it on the cards. 2-1, maybe even 3-0. She's good at winning rounds, whereas I feel like Viana's going to look for the stoppage. She's looking to sub her, and I think she's going to have a hard time finding the sub on Lucindo. So give me Viana for the win. Did I say give me Viana for the win? Totally ignore that. Give me Lucindo for the win. See, when I have fumbles like that, it makes me worry, man, because maybe that was a sign from the universe that Lucindo ends up getting tapped out. Not saying it, though. Not picking it. I'm still picking Lucindo. But for people on Viana, they're probably excited that the jinx might be in effect here. As far as the odds, Lucindo's minus 200. I don't love it. To Viana at plus 170. Lucindo by a decision, I think, is fairly likely. It's plus 145. Earlier in the week, it was, at a better tag. I was looking at it at plus 165 for most of the week. Now down a bit. I like plus 165 better, but I am picking Lucindo to win by a decision. Granted, yellow flag around it. Ladies matchup, 21-year-old. There's some relative risk here. But I'm picking Lucindo on the judges' scorecards. Lucindo by a decision. Maybe you're looking at that prop. Next fight is our featured bout. It's Khalil Rountree versus Chris Daukaus. And I have been picking Khalil to win by knockout in the first round all week. And I think the weigh-ins probably added fuel to my fire. We'll pull up Khalil Rountree on the scales here. First, let's pull up Daukaus. Daukaus has lost weight. He's got some visible ribs, but he's still looking quite chubby, man. And then there is Khalil, who looks in fantastic shape. Some of the best looks from Khalil we've seen. He's shredded, and he looks menacing here. You see a little bit of a height edge for Daukaus. When they're in the striking, I think Khalil really can hurt him. Daukaus might look to wrestle a bit here, but Khalil's going to be a hard guy to take down. I think Rountree's such the better athlete. He's got more heavy hands. He's got better punch resistance. And I think he finds the kill shot on Chris Daukaus here. I'm still riding with Khalil Rountree to get the win. I'm going to say knockout. Same as I've said all week long. I think he finds the chin of Daukaus. Minus 170 for Rountree. Note Daukaus 2's on a 3-fight knockout losing streak. Daukaus is plus 145 as the dog. Khalil Rountree by KO, minus 175. It's worse than the money line. That makes no sense. But Rountree to win money line is probably your best bet if you're looking to throw on him or you're putting him in a parlay. The money line side, Rountree by first round knockout's only plus 120. And then if he gets it in the second, now you got plus 650. The thing with Rountree is it's not like he hasn't won in the later rounds, second or third. So maybe it's a sneaky prop to go second round knockout. But realistically, you can try to snipe out those props percentage-wise around props. You're going to drop your likelihood by a fuck ton. But Rountree to win money line, that's the A side. That's the side that I'm riding with, and that's the side that I think happens here. So Rountree for the win over Daukaus. In a fight that I'm excited to see, though, because I'm happy to see Daukaus cut that body fat off. I just think the UFC doing him no favors with the Rountree fight. Next fight is our co-main event. Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. And it's kind of a battle of different timelines in the game. Dawodu really coming into his prime, developing, but I think is a pretty, well-rounded guy. Nice Muay Thai, good shape. Swanson, 39, tried to drop to bantamweight, was unsuccessful, now back at 45. I've been picking Dawodu by a decision all week. I think Cub Swanson's a very good fighter. He's a slick boxer for sure. I think he will struggle with Dawodu's Muay Thai game, though, in this fight here. His physical strength could be a factor, too. And just the youth advantage, Dawodu more in his prime. I think Swanson out of his prime. And with Dawodu having a reach advantage, I like it in this fight for him. If he's at a disadvantage, then he gets caught up on the outside by a slicker guy. But with Swanson at the disadvantage, I think he's going to be getting touched up a bit. Dawodu outstrikes him, but there's moments for Cub. Control for Dawodu. Unanimous decision for him here. I think that Swanson will at the least look better than he did against Jonathan Martinez, who really destroyed his legs when he fought at 135. There was Dawodu. Crazy shreds on him in the do-rag. And there's Cub Swanson, who honestly, at 39, looks real good. There's the face-off. I'll pick Dawodu by a decision. But Cub Swanson, he don't look his age. He don't look 39. He looks in good shape. He seems to, be ready to rock. I'll say it's a hard 3 rounds, but Dawodu wins. I still think he's a solid prospect. I know now he's 32, so I guess he's no longer a prospect, but he's still a solid fighter nonetheless. Dawodu is minus 240 as the favorite to Swanson, a plus 205 underdog here. I like Dawodu to win. Minus 240 is ugly, though. Dawodu by decision, plus 165. I think there's a real chance he beats Cub Swanson on the scorecards. If Swanson's going out there getting stopped, it's because I think he doesn't have the same level anymore. Because what, Dawodu, decision win there, decision, right? Dawodu's kind of the king of winning these decisions in the past, few years. Swanson, I think, loses a hard-fought 3 rounds with Dawodu. So Dawodu to win the co-main event. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. I've been picking Luque to out-kickbox dos Anjos over the 5 rounds. Now, dos Anjos is a very dangerous guy when he is on top of you. Note that Luque, though, fairly slick with his subs, does have a nasty Darce choke, does train with Gilbert Burns, has seen good looks in the wrestling and jiu-jitsu levels through his training room, and he's an experienced vet at this point, too. I think Luque, over the 5 wins, 4 of them. Dos Anjos doesn't bring a big punching threat here, which I think is positive towards Luque, because Luque had a serious injury after his last fight, a brain bleed, which is rather concerning. Jeff Neal really put it on him. Now, that was almost a year ago, so he's had a good amount of time to recover. I expect Luque to win a hard 5 rounds. I don't think this is an easy fight, but Luque is the pick here. As far as the scales, let's check these guys out. Dos Anjos looks like his normal self. He looks like RDA at 170. Luque, I mean, he looks all right. Then there's the face-off there. I like the reach advantage for Luque. I like the kickboxing game. I like the get-ups from the bottom. And I'm telling you, I like him over the 5. A hard-fought decision win for Vicente Luque over Rafael dos Anjos, a legend of the game at this point. Minus 105 for Luque to minus 115 dos Anjos. The money line Luque is probably the better side if you're throwing down, but I understand some relative concerns due to that brain bleed. Now, Luque to win by a decision is plus 500, which is kind of wild to me. He has gone distance before. Plus 250 for a Luque KO. I think at 170, dos Anjos' durability is going to be pretty damn good, even at 39 years of age, or 38 rather. So Luque by a decision makes sense to me at plus 500. I'm riding with Luque to win it. He's a close money underdog in a damn solid fight. We'll pick Luque to win the main event, but we're not done just yet. Let's talk some parlays to play for this card here. All right, so after weigh-ins, I really got to say, I like what I saw from Terrance McKinney. I think he's got a real high probability of winning his fight. I like McKinney a ton here. You go McKinney Dawodu minus 102. Or if you went with McKinney and JP Bays, like I was saying, you were just trying to attack confidence with a big dog. Now you got nearly 5-1. And it's not impossible that it hits, man. I think it just adds to your JP Bays line. He's the 50-50. You get what I'm saying? Take Bays out. Buday is an addition you could consider. Plus 106. I'm doing safer plays. Over 1.5 likely. Minus 109. Ride with the side of McKinney. And then also ride with the side of Khalil, plus 118. Because Nchukwi missed weight, it makes me want to leave him out of it. Plus 273 if you had him, though. Rountree, McKinney, Dawodu, plus 214. Add in underdog. Maybe you're going with Dulgarian, plus 699. Then if you had JP Bays in there, too, now you got plus 3,000. And Buday. Plus 373 for these confident picks here. Let's go Dulgarian, Buday. Amorim plus 1,600. 2-3 fighters max is way better than trying to play like this. But I want to give you guys some excitement to finish out the show. Plus 3,390. I like the safer stuff, though. I like the safer stuff, man. I like the safer side. I like the 2-fighter plays. A McKinney Buday, plus 106. I think it's pretty damn likely. A McKinney Dawodu, nearly minus 110. What, minus 102? I think it's pretty damn likely. Dawodu, McKinney, and you're like, I don't want to throw Buday. You go that over. You got plus 177. 2-3 fighters for your highest likelihood of success. Everything else, you're throwing the gamble down. Now, I want to go just dog savagery just for fun here. Let's do it. plus nearly 2,000 if Luque, Bays, and Dulgarian all ended up hitting. Degenerate dog play to finish it off, which, I think has some possibility, but not saying it's a damn lock. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the weigh-in recap show. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't. And subscribe to the channel if you're new with the post notifications turned on so you don't miss a video. And make sure you take them from personalized to all so you really see everything, because I got content every day of the week. So keep your eyes peeled. Let me know what you think of the picks in the comments below. And if you have nothing to say in those comments, just drop a W in the chat as always to boost the algorithm for your boy. Excited for tomorrow. Looking forward to the fight companion. See you guys there. Much love, everybody. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.